going to learn Fasciolopsis buski. It is the largest intestinal fluid in human being. You can see on the left is a picture of the egg, and on the right is a picture of the adulthood. And both of them are very large compared to others. So Fasciolopsis buski is one of the old parasites described in Chinese traditional medicine. In London, Busk first described the buski after finding it in the duodenum of a sailor in 1843, and another scientist first determined its life cycle in human in 1925. So it's a very ancient parasite. This parasite is prevalent in Southeast Asia and lives in humans and pigs' intestines, and is the largest intestinal fluid of human being. It's also called Asia giant intestinal fluid. The prevalence of Fasciolopsis is related to growing water plants and feeding pigs on water plants. So this one, the intermediate host, is different from the first one we have learned. And the liver fluid, the intermediate host is a freshwater fish and freshwater snail. And this one, the intermediate host is actually the growing water plant. Now let's look at what does it looks like. The adult worm is like a slice of ginger slice. It's like a slice of raw meat, and there's a vertebral sucker and there's the oral sucker. So two suckers. One is at the abdomen, the other at the mouth. And two coral-like testes are located on the posterior end of the body. The egg is oval in shape and is in the slightly yellow color, and it's the size, as you can see, is very huge. It's the largest helminth egg. It has a very thin and smooth shell, and also it has an operculum, enclosed an ovum, and many yolk cells. This is the intermediate host picture. This is a Plumnobis snail. So the first intermediate host is snail, and here you can take a look. And we'll start from 7th on the right. So from the 7th, the exit in the duodenum, and the adult lives in the small intestine. And then the eggs get out of the system with the feces, and then they get inside the water. In the water, this is the stage number 2, is embryonated eggs in the water. After some times, the miracidia hatch and penetrates snail. So inside the snail, which is stage number 4, you can see in the snail, the parasite will develop from sporocyst to rhidia and then to saccharia. And with saccharia stage, they are free living in the water, and then they want to hide on the water plants. And if people get the water plants and eat them raw, or pigs eat them raw, and then there's infection. So key points for the life cycle. So the residing site is the small intestine, and the infective stage is the metasaccharia, and infective mode is eating raw water plants with metasaccharia. And then there's intermediate host, is a freshwater snail, and the life cycle stage includes adult worm, egg, meracidium, sporoid cyst, motheridium, daughteridia, saccharia, insista, metasaccharia. And medium of water plants, there's water chestnuts, water bamboo, and water caltrop. Some of them you can find in Zhejiang province. So that is one of the reasons why this buski intestinal fluid is prevalent in this province. And then there's a reservoir host is the pigs, and they live a lifespan of 1 to 4 years. This is the picture of the water plants. You can get an idea. I don't know whether you have eaten them before. The first one is very common. We can buy it in the supermarket, and in the cafeteria you can also find dishes like this. So it's better to just as long as they are well cooked, it's okay. Just don't eat them raw. And on the right is a water cow trap. Many of them eat it. It's very famous and popular in this province. And usually we eat it, just boil them with water and then eat it. But if you eat them raw, they just pick them in the water and then open the shell and then eat the inside. It's like it's very juicy and a little bit sweet. But from today you will know that this is a hiding place for the buski fluid. Water chestnut is commonly eaten, and people eat it raw. And in many countries, people eat it raw. They put it in the fruit. They eat it as a fruit, and this is a very important source of infection for Fasciolopsis buski, as the Saccharia insists on the surface, and the surface you can see is dark, so it's very easy to neglect the things hidden under it. So the pathology and clinical manifestations. So they can cause enteritis, and because the attachment of the adults manifests abdominal discomfort, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Malnutrition can sometimes happen because if there's because the worms are sharing food with the host, and then there might be diarrhea, and then there's chance of getting the anemia, edema of leg and face, even ascites. So for the diagnosis, you want to ask the patient history, whether they eat some water plants, and then there's stool examination with a golden standard, whether you can find the X. So direct fecal smear and water sedimentation method. These are the two ways to check for the X. Epidemiology, you can see in the Southeast Asia there are many rivers, and thus many water plants, and people, if they just eat the water plants raw, and there's a good chance they get the disease. And in China, it is found in 18 provinces, cities, and autonomic regions, except north and western regions. And this is a lifestyle correlated with Fasciolopsis buski infection. You can see people, when they are in the river, they get the water plant and they just eat it. So by then, it's very common to have this kind of disease. And these plants were also used to feed pigs. Treatment and prevention. So the treatment is also and also carriers and pigs. The first option is Presenquental. It's very so Presenquental is a universal, can be used as a universal medication for different kind of flukes infection. Prevention, so education and management of human feces, and avoid feeding pigs on raw water plants.